Hey guys, welcome to another ProGuides Teamfight Tactics video, and today we're going to review over Draven Knight. With a buff to Knights, this composition becomes incredibly difficult to handle for most physical damage compositions like Rangers and Gunslingers. In addition to Dragon Claw on Draven, this makes him a very difficult carry to eliminate, making him a frightening carry. But first, I'd like to remind you to click on the link below and take a look at the updated ProGuides.com if you want to learn more about teamfight tactics. ProGuides will always have info on the newest patches, best builds, and strategies. There are all kinds of different resources from top players to help you become the best player you can be, so be sure to check out ProGuides.com using the link in the description. Now, let's get right back into the video. Draven is one of the best solo carries in the game, with his ultimate giving him insanely high bonus attack damage. Combined with either Imperials, critical damage, Blade Masters, and items, Draven can be capable of clearing out most teams insanely fast. So let's get right into learning this composition, starting with the early game. One of the strongest aspects of Knights is their accessibility early game. Mordekaiser, Darius, and Garen, all being 1 costs, makes it obvious you should pick them up early. Units like Shen and Fiora are decent pickups as well to start getting Blade Master early on. With player damage getting nerfed again, it is best to sandbag the early game to try to get yourself items and economy. During this part of the game, you want to actively be looking for Draven items. Rapid Fire Cannon, Bloodthirster, and Dragon Claw are ideal, so specifically Negatrons and Recurve Bows. Though Phantom Dancer is better than Dragon Claw if you're against Assassins. By sandbagging, you get yourself a ton of gold to effectively level and roll for Draven. The best way to sandbag is always to sell units that aren't Knights to get yourself to the next econ point. So like selling an Elise to hit 10 gold or selling a Kennen for 30. If you can't hit the next point, then purchasing weak units and putting them in instead of your regular team can guarantee you a loss to continue a loss streak. If you high roll the early game, you can also play aggressively for a win streak using your Knights. Though keep in mind what items you combine, making sure you have the most optimal items ready for Draven since he is your late game carry. Units like Nicolai or Zed can be great units to hold on to the items early until Draven comes along. After you've gathered yourself a lot of econ and some Knights, we move on to the mid game. The transition from early to mid depends on making sure you hit the core 5 Knights, Sejuani, Poppy, Garen, Darius, and Mordekaiser, along with a Knight's Vow. You also want to actively econ until you hit level 7, and then start aggressively rolling for Draven. Level 7 is also the point where the comp excels the most, since at level 6, your Draven is the only one who can hold the Knight's Vow, which can be bad since he wants his 3 core items. This is also a good level to have a high chance at rolling Draven. If possible, 3-starring your 1-cost Knights is always a good idea at this point too, before you level to 8 and 9, where 1-cost chances become significantly lower. They're also cheap and don't really hurt your economy, though if you aim for too many 3 costs, keep in mind of your limited bench space as well. It's also good to know you should never directly roll for 3 stars, but rather have it as something you pick up. The 3-star Knights are not your carries, so you should never burn all your economy to look for them. If you don't have a Knight's Vow, your alternative is 4 Knights with Sejuani, Poppy, Darius, and Garen or Mordekaiser as your core units. Gangplank, Shen, and Aatrox are all fantastic Blade Masters to carry you as well while you try to get Draven online. Even though this build is a bit squishier, it's still relatively tanky, and the 2 other Blade Masters deal damage alongside your Draven. It also lets the comp not depend on Draven so much, since your other Blade Masters are capable of damage, unlike the 6 Knights build. Also, always scout for how many Dravens there are in your game. This is important to making sure when you roll. If you're in a lobby where around 0 to 2 people are going for Draven, then it should be alright to roll at 7. However, if you notice a lot of people running Blade Masters, aggressively rolling at 6 can also be the right play to ensure you get the Draven first. This can also be a good time to 3-star your Knights since you're rolling down anyways. As you get Draven 2-starred and Knights online, you move on to the late game. Before leveling to 8 and 9, always try to actively upgrade your pairs like Sejuani and Draven, who can be incredibly important. A common mistake people make is leveling to the late game but not having enough economy to upgrade important pairs like Swain, Draven, and so on. Always be wary of your gold and pairs before leveling, since your team already hit its ideal power spike at level 7. In the late game, there are a lot of options to look out for. The strongest and most common strategy is 4 Imperials, 6 Knights, 2 Phantoms, usually using Kayle, Sejuani, Poppy, Darius, Mordekaiser, Draven, Katarina, Swain, and Kindred. Kindred can be fantastic utility to keep your Draven alive and also provides a Phantom bonus for your team. Instead of Kindred, if you have a Blade of the Ruined King as well, you can give it to Swain and run an Aatrox for 3 Blade Masters, 2 Demons instead of 2 Phantoms. Another alternative, though a bit easier, is a 6 Knights, 3 Blademasters, running Kayle, Sejuani, Poppy, Darius, Mordekaiser, Draven, Gangplank, and Aatrox, giving Gangplank or Aatrox your Knight's Vow. Shen, though a strong frontline Blademaster, isn't necessary since you have 5 Knights for a tanky frontline, plus Aatrox and Gangplank provide magic damage to support your Draven's physical damage. Yasuo, when 2-starred, or even at 1-star, is always a great Blademaster in the late game, being incredibly strong with on-hit items and tank items like Warmogs. Now that you understand how to play at Draven Knights, we're going to review over positioning. In terms of positioning, it's dependent on the lobby you're up against most of the time. When dealing with assassins, placing Draven in the middle surrounded by Knights and Blademasters, then placing your weakest units, typically Darius and Mordekaiser, on both the left and right as a bait. This will help divert the assassins away from your Draven. If you're up against an Aurelion Sol shapeshifter composition, always try to place Draven away from Gnar, though it's possible to counter Gnar with a Trap Claw or Quicksilver. It's also important to look to place Draven in the same corner as Aurelion Sol, and placing a bait unit on the opposite side. Though this isn't as important if you're running Dragon Claw and Bloodthirster, since Draven will typically out-sustain Aurelion Sol's damage. If you're up against Voids, always try to spread your team out to avoid getting bursted and CC'd by Cho'Gath. Though, try to keep in mind if they're running assassins as well, trying to place Draven on the same sides as the assassins to avoid being bursted down is a good way to position against them. Items like Zephyr and units like Blitz getting a hold of your Draven can instantly lose you a fight, so always pay attention to anyone who may have them. Try to position Draven at the last second to stop your opponent from counter-positioning you as well. Also, good to keep in mind units like Sejuani typically ults forward, so try to position Draven on the opposite side of Sejuani, or in the corners if she's in the center. This is also good to note since you're running Sejuani yourself. Core items on Draven is Rapid Fire Cannon to guarantee him stacking his thrown axes, Bloodthirster to give him incredible sustain, especially when dealing with units like Aurelion Sol, and Dragon Claw or Phantom Dancer to counter either sorcerers or assassins. If you have difficulty getting these, items like Infinity Edge, Gunblade, Quicksilver, Rageblade, Static Shiv, Guardian Angel, Trap Claw, and Runaan's Hurricane are viable items. If you're running Swain, his core items are Guardian Angel, Dragon Claw, and Morrocrux. These items can make Swain incredibly difficult to kill while he does a large amount of AoE damage. Once again, Phantom Dancer being better than Dragon Claw if the enemy is assassins and not running 4 wilds. For units like Fiora and Nicolai in the early, Gangplank in the mid, and Yasuo in the late game, items like Hush, Swordbreaker, and Cursed Blade can be great items to counter specific compositions. Hush being good against spellcasting compositions, Swordbreaker being a strong counter to shapeshifters and assassins, Cursed Blade being strong against hyper roll comps and shapeshifters. For your Knights, items like Frozen Heart, Redemption, Ionic Spark, Guardian Angel, Thornmail, Zephyr, and Locket of Iron Solari. These are great picks once your carries are fully stacked out, or if you're low on health and need to make items right away. However, it's typically better to stack your other carries first. Thief's Glove is fantastic as an item to use on your tanks or even some of your other carries. Specifically Shen, Sejuani, Aatrox, Katarina, and Poppy are all great candidates to use Thief's Glove if available due to how much value it can provide for you. Dragon Claw is another item that you want to use if you have an excessive amount of Negatron cloaks and you've already made some for your Draven and Swain. Any 3-starred Knight or Sejuani can make them insanely hard to get past. Now that you understand how to play the composition, what are teams this comp is weak against? What do you want to aim for if you're against Draven Knights? Yordles can be a really powerful counter to a Draven composition if you're using Mittens. With Rapid Fire Cannon losing its guaranteed attacks, Yordles can be incredibly difficult for Draven to kill, especially units like Shyvana with Mittens, 2 dragons, and 6 Yordles, meaning she is immune to magic and has an incredibly high dodge chance. Elementals and Sorcerers can be a strong counter to Draven Knights if built properly. Units like Aurelion Sol, Karthus, or Brand that deal a heavy amount of burst damage, unlike Kennen, who is tick damage, which Knights counter. However, this counter is usually dependent if Draven has a Dragon Claw or not. Void is one of the best counters to Draven Knights due to the true damage and crowd control. Unlike Sorcerers, true damage goes through Draven's Dragon Claw. The Void damage also goes through the block damage Knights provide, making the composition a lot squishier compared to fighting other comps. Guardians can also be a strong synergy to pick up. Firstly, the armor provided by Guardians directly greatly reduces the damage Draven deals. Draven's goal is bursting units as fast as possible, so this can complicate things for him. Secondly, Guardians units in general are great at countering Draven. Braum being able to block his autos, Leona's stun disabling him from the fight temporarily, and Pantheon providing an AoE burn to the Knights and Draven, so putting them in doesn't sacrifice much in your team. Finally, 4 wild assassins can be a difficult composition for Draven Knights to fight against. Similar to elementals and sorcerers, assassins excel at dealing heavy sudden burst damage. The reason for Wild Assassins is a more noticeable counter than just regular assassins is Draven can't build a Phantom Dancer to counter the crits assassins have. Units like Rengar are also a lot stronger against slower compositions as well, allowing him to stack up to maximum attack speed if he's running Rage Blade. That's all for today's video on Draven Knight. Its high damage produced by Draven, combined with the incredible tankiness of 6 Knights, makes it a powerful composition to run. Its accessibility early game and simple transitions into the late game makes it a strong and consistent team to build. Draven's capabilities to itemize against specific matchups and the team having multiple late game options gives the team a strong advantage over a lot of comps. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. Who is your favorite hyper carry in the game? What items do you think are best on Draven? Comment down below, and remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit ProGuides.com to stay up to date on teamfight tactics. Wish you guys good luck in your next games. We'll see y'all next time.